Hello. Hello, am I audible? Vinayak, am I audible? Okay, I think yes. So, welcome to the week 10 of Fundamentals of Additive Manufacturing. In this week, mainly the powder based additive manufacturing techniques has been discussed. So, as a recap from last class, so if you have any doubt from week 10 lectures, videos, then you can ask me. Otherwise, as usual, I will go with one by one. Each topic has been discussed in week 10. So, first, as a recap, in the last week, we got to know about WAM. So, better if you do not call it WAM and call it as ARC DED because the state of the art is DED. And in DED, we are using ARC and we are using wire as a feed material. So, we have discussed that under the state of the art of DED, directed energy deposition, we can have our feed material as wire or powder. And on the other hand, as a heat source, we can have arc, laser, electron beam, and plasma. So, in the segment of YM is it's not a state of the art, it's a commercial company name. So, it's better if you do not use YM and use RTD rather. So in RDD, we use the wire as a feed material or feedstock material, and we use arc as an energy source. So in wire arc DD, you can have the process physics as TIG, tungsten inert gas welding, or MIG, metal inert gas welding. In MIG process, we use consumable electrons. So MIG is as similar as the MIG welding, where you will have a consumable electrode from where the wire will get deposited in a droplet form. And in case of TIG, we will have non-consumable electrode where we feed the stock material from outside. So you have to feed the feedstock from another wire, from another nozzle. So there you can have different configurations. One configuration is the rotating feedstock configuration, where you get highest efficiency or process efficiency. So this is all about arc wire DD. And then we have started discussing about the powder DD, where you use laser as an energy source. So now we have the combination of powder plus laser in DD. So DED means directed energy deposition. So the material or the raw material will be directly interacted with the energy source or heat source. So generally by DED we mean this, that the laser will come from central slot of the nozzle and the powder will come from the circumferential slot of the nozzle. But in the last class, I have already discussed that you can deposit the layer in different ways at different position, because you will have one laser focus point, one powder focus point, because the powder stream is also coming like this. So they will have one focus point and then they will get defocused. So obviously, similarly, this is the this is the powder stream. So definitely you will have a focus range or region of the powder stream, and then this is the defocused area. Similarly, you will have a range of focus, a Rayleigh range of focus of the laser, and then the defocus region of the laser. Now it depends that how you are focusing the powder with respect to the laser. It's not always the case that you are focusing the laser and focusing the powder at the same point. It cannot be so. So basically, we use the laser with defocused region, and we use the powder at focused region. So we worked at the defocused region of laser and focused region of powder. Always remember. Now, this has a definite reason behind it why we work like that. So, the reason we will be discussing, but before that, this is the recap about the last week. So, I would like to ask you if you have any doubt from the week 10 lecture videos. Have you watched the week 10 videos, Vinay? I think you're not audible. I don't know. I can't listen to your voice. But you are shown unmuted. I can't. No. You can write in the comments box because I can't listen to your voice. Have you watched the videos? And do you have any doubt about the topic of powder delivery system and powder DD? Some video. Okay, good. Then you have some idea about the topics mainly. And do you have any doubt? No. Okay. So it's better to go with topics one by one. So, in case of DD, as I have shown, that if this is the nozzle cross section, from this central hole, the laser will come. And in the circumference, there will be smaller slots for the powder stream to come. Now, if there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So, if there are 14 slots, for example, from the 14 slot, the powder stream will come like this, right? And from the central slot, the laser will come. So it's it's very difficult to control the powder delivery and to control the focus spot of the powder delivery and coincide with it with the laser focus spot. So it's a complex arrangement, but the configuration that I am showing right now is having the nozzle shape or cross section like this, and there is no different uh, nozzle for the powder delivery. In the same nozzle, the pipe from the powder hopper will come and connect it, and from that the powder is coming in the whole nozzle, and from the slots they are coming out. Okay, but there can be different arrangement also. This is configuration 1. Configuration 2 can be like this is a nozzle, this is a nozzle, and this is another nozzle. From this nozzle the laser is coming, and from these two nozzles the powder is coming. Now obviously this is the focus of powder, and in this region your work, your interest of work will be this region. Why? Because if you think about this region, then the cross section of that region will look like this. From the powder spreading, cross section of the powder spreading will look like a donut shape, and in the middle of that, the laser will be present. So the laser is no way interacting with the powders which are coming. So this is why what we do is we work at the focus region of the powder stream. So if it is a focus region, then the powder will be spread like this, and at the middle the laser is coming. Now again, if you are working with the laser with its focus, then laser is this much. This much is the laser focus spot dia. If this is the laser focus spot dia and the powder is coming like this, then the laser will not be able to melt the powders, all the powders which are coming from the nozzle. So that's why we don't generally work at the focus point of the laser in case of DV. So we go for defocus region. Defocused region means we are basically increasing the spot diameter of the focus of the laser. So if this is the powder stream, the laser should look like this. This should be the laser and this should be the powder. So the powder focus spot should be tightly focused at one position, and that tightly focused spot diameter should be lesser than the laser defocus diameter. Otherwise, the laser will not be able to melt all the powder particles which are coming from the nozzle. So that's why now there is another task. Now you have to first see where the laser is overlapping with the powder and where the laser diameter is more than the powder stream diameter. And before that, you have to first fix the powder spot, focus spot. Because if from two nozzles the powder is coming, they are coming simultaneously. And you have to now see where they are meeting and where they are getting dispersed. So it's a quite complicated job. So that's why people go for optimization. People go for optimization of the powder stream velocity, standoff distance, the laser focus dia, so the working distance basically for laser, the laser optical arrangement, because from a lens the laser is coming, and the focus spot is basically the property of the lens as well. So the arrangement, the positioning of the lens, the positioning of the nozzle head, everything plays a very crucial role. So now let's go with the lecture PDF and see what is happening. So this is the diagram that I wanted to show. Is it visible, Vinay? Yes, no, yes, okay. So this is the diagram from which from this two nozzle. This is nozzle 1 and this is nozzle 2. So from nozzle 1 and nozzle 2 the powder is coming, and this red line which is the reference line, you can consider it as a laser as well. So this is my region of interest, because in this range only you will have maximum density of the powder stream cross section. In the last class, if you remember, then I have also talked about the capture efficiency or capturing efficiency, which means that how much powder particles you are able to melt under the consolidation of laser, the ratio of this, and the other factor is the how much powder you are actually delivering. So that means there will be some loss. So the powder which is getting delivered from the nozzle will not get melted fully. Some powder particles will just fly. Some powder particles will just bounce back from the melt pool. Some powder particles will not come inside the melt pool area. some powder particle can go off from the laser focus or laser spot diameter. So like that, you will lose a lot of powder particles. So that's why the capture efficiency lie between 20% or max to max 40%. It never goes to, in fact, like towards 100% or 90% or in fact 80%. Okay, so it's always very less, but our main motive in DD is to increase the capture efficiency. And also the powder is fed from the powder hopper to the delivery nozzle via a carrier gas. So that's why DED parts are always prone to have crack because they have a lot of porosity inside it. So the main difference between wired laser DD and powder laser DD is, in case of powder laser DD, you will always find more porosity because the powder is coming with the help of a carrier gas, and that gas can get uh, entrapped inside the melt pool very easily. So that these are the problem related to the DD method or powder DD. So the powder mass concentration, which signifies the number of particles per unit area of the focus spot, is negatively correlated to the nozzle exit diameter. The concept of the word nozzle is where the velocity increases after getting released from a nozzle. So that is what nozzle means. So that's why if the nozzle diameter is lesser, your powder particle stream velocity and the density will be higher. So the like more number of particles or more number of powder particles will come to the melt pool and towards the deposition if your nozzle diameter is less. But the powder particle size distribution in case of DED is 45 to 120 micrometer. So obviously your nozzle dash should be more than 120 and something around 200 or 300 micrometer. Otherwise your powder particles will get stuck in that inside nozzle. So then stand-up distance is another very important and crucial parameter which shows the negative correlation with the injection angle and the nozzle exit diameter. So basically, if how can I show here? So if you have this, then obviously if this angle is more, then this angle is also more, right? Then you will not get that good concentration of the powder particles at at the melt pool. And this thing, stand up distance is very less in that case. There will be more chance of getting the powder particles bounced back from the melt pool. So that's why we maintain an optimal stand up distance which is not very close to the nozzle. If it's very close, then the powder particles will get bounced back and will not get deposited. And then if your standard distance is very high, then in between the path, the way from nozzle end to the melt pool, your powder particle stream velocity will be very less, so that your powders will not be able to reach the melt pool. So you may lose or you may lose some powder particles from the stream. So your stand-up distance should not be very high or should not be very less. Then there is one point of injection radius. So injection radius is positively related to the stand-off distance because in this diagram, as you see, that this is the nozzle end from where the laser is coming. So depending upon this injection radius, your stand-off distance will be varied. If this is very high, then your stand-off distance will be very high. Otherwise, you'll not get the highest density of the powder particles at the melt pool. Then Ensuring the area of overlapping powder stream is more than the laser spot size ensures the uniformity of the deposited track. This I have already told you. It's like uh, if this is your powder, if this is your laser, that means maximum number of powder should come inside the laser focus spot dash. That is what happening here. So here your powder stream is coming. These are the powder stream, and at their overlapping point you are focusing the laser. So now if you are using multiple powder stream, and if your powder stream is more than two, then you'll have very large overlapping area, but that overlapping area should have the maximum possible number of powder particles, and your laser spot dash should lie in between, so that you can have much more capturing efficiency than this picture. So this picture is better, but here the capture efficiency is very low. Okay, next is yeah, excuse me. Then according to this study, as we can see, excuse me, your powder particles or feedstock material is coming from a powder hopper. Using the advantage of this powder hopper mechanism, one can get a very high productivity in terms of different material printing in case of DD. For example, this thing. So there is something called functionally graded material. In case of metal additive manufacturing, two methods are mostly popular. One is DD, one is LPBF. If you go with LPBF, then in some of the systems you will have the arrangement in which you can print FGM, but it's mostly difficult to print FGM in case of LPBF. But in case of DD, the powder is coming from a powder hopper. So if you can uh, have separate control over each powder hopper, then you can mix two, three, or multiple powders together with definite proportions according to your choice by controlling the powder hopper speed separately. You can have FGM printing very easily in case of DD. So here um, four from four hopper the powder is coming. Now if you can have separate control over this four hopper, you can even pour four different powder in four hopper and then separately control them in such a way that in case of layer 1 you have hopper 1, 2, 3, 4. In layer 1, 50% powder is coming from 1, 10% is coming from 2, 10% is coming from 3, and the rest of 30% is coming from 4. In layer 2, 40% is coming and 40% this. In layer 3, 30% and 50%. So in like this manner, you can see I have changed the percentage of the powder coming from different hopper, changed with different layers. So now like this manner, if you have that control, separate control over the powder hopper, then you can automate this process and print a very beautiful functionally graded material in case of DD, and it's easier than printing it in any other metal additive manufacturing process. So that is the most or that is the biggest advantage of using DD. But again, in DD the powder stream is coming from a nozzle and getting deposited over the build plate. So in case of DD, making support structure and removing that is quite difficult. And as the powder is coming from the nozzle itself, it's not getting spread over the build plate, unlike LPBF. So using that advantage also, people go for supportless printing in case of DD, in which apart from XYZ movement, you will have an extra another degree of freedom in the bill plate or in the nozzle, in which the bill plate can rotate and the nozzle may move or tilt in different angles. In that case, you can print a part without any support, or you can print any overhanging structure without any support. So this is called the supportless printing that can be achieved in case of DD. Now, if you are using the supportless printing in case of DD, then your nozzle has to move, and from your nozzle, the powder is coming. It is not wire, it is powder. These are loose powder which are carried or which are getting flew with the help of carrier gas. So if your nozzle is moving, tilting in alpha angle, your powder stream will look like this. Because of the gravity, your powder stream will not remain constant. At the tilting angle, your powders will go more, and you'll have this type of vacuum, or this type of free or empty stream over the milk pool. And if your powder is getting tilted as well, then your milk pool formation will not be good as your 90-degree deposition, and this can hamper the quality of the printing. So that's why, again, now people go for the nozzles with separate um, control, in which if your this this is one these are the different nozzles, and if you can have separate control over separate nozzle, then inside this head, your three inside head, your powder nozzles are placed, and now you can feed the nozzle 1 and 3 more than 2, and now you can feed your nozzle 3 even more than 1, so that this empty space cannot remain empty, and you'll have uniform distribution throughout the powder stream. So this is one example how you can have the advantage after getting separate control over separate nozzle from powder hopper. Then again, next configuration. So this is so particle marked A on its path towards the center of the melt pool interacts with the laser beam at location X. From X onwards, particle A stripe a portion of the laser beam's energy and directly towards center the melt pool where it is getting heated. And then this combined with the Gaussian heat intensity profile of the laser beam results in insufficient heating at the edge of the melt pool and excessive heating at the center. So the conclusion from this is, if you are using side nozzle arrangement, then okay, I will conclude 2 points from here. One point is, from side nozzle arrangement, it's difficult to print material in case of DED. So if you are using fiber laser with Gaussian profile, so conclusion number 2 is, people generally go for top head profile of laser beam rather than Gaussian in case of DD. So when DD got invented, the first phenomena under DD was cladding, which was extensively used at that time. So cladding is basically repairing a worn out machinery part. And in case of cladding, for example, if you are having one shaft and in cladding you can have, if this portion is worn out, then this shaft will rotate, and over this portion the material will get deposited. After that, you can machine the layer or machine the upper surface to get a smooth finish. So this is how people used to use cladding, or the state of the art of DED in case of cladding. In case of cladding now, you have to go for top head profile. If you are going for a Gaussian beam profile, then again the powders which are interacting at the edge of the melt pool, like this powders, these powders will get lesser heat, and the powders which are interacting in this region, they will get more heat, which is not good for the deposition quality. So that's it. That is why if you are going for some top hat profile like this, then your laser beam intensity will be constant throughout the focus spot diameter, and from wherever the powder is coming inside the melt pool, all the powder particles will get heat up uniformly. Okay, so these two conclusions I wanted to draw from this configuration. Then another advantage of using central feed powder delivery nozzle is that minimal divergence of the powder stream. So, okay, another conclusion is the configuration that I showed you last time is that from a single nozzle, from a single head, the laser will come from central slot and the powders will come from circumferential slot. So, if you are using this configuration, then you'll get higher capture efficiency than if you are using one nozzle for laser and two different nozzle for powder. Then this divergence, this is the divergence angle alpha, this divergence will be more, and if the divergence of the powder stream is more, that means your powder capture efficiency will be lesser. More per number of powders will go off out of the region, out of the range of the melt pool. Lesser number of powder particles will come inside the melt pool. So then, so these are the nozzle arrangement, different nozzle arrangement for the powder particles or powder stream. But if you want to go for something different, in which the gravity will be more useful and you don't have to have a separate arrangement or separate control over the nozzles, then people go for non-pneumatic nozzle. In case of non-pneumatic nozzle, there are some studies which have been shown in this lecture video. So this basically the gist is that when you go for non-pneumatic nozzle, you have to apply some external vibration uh, with the help of piezoelectric material or external voltage, and by that the powder particle will come using the gravitational force, and you don't have to use any carrier gas. So if you are minimizing the use of carrier gas in your deposition, then your porosity will be minimized, because as I said, porosity is the main problem and difference from in between the powder DD and wire DD. So in case of non-pneumatic nozzle, what happens is there are some studies you can see here. So here, this is the hopper, or this is the nozzle in which you are attaching one piezoelectric material. So in case of piezoelectric material, if you supply voltage, they expands or contracts. So there will be physical contraction and expansion, or dimensional contraction and expansion by the externally applied voltage. So basically electrical energy to mechanical energy. This conversion happens in case of piezoelectric material. So using piezoelectric material, if you are applying the voltage, this will contract and expand, and accordingly it will push the powder present in the hopper. And if it's pushing the powder will come out from the nozzle end. The in the second uh, diagram, it shows that the piezoelectric material is mounted over the nozzle at the end position, and this is ring type, which is supporting the nozzle at the end. And when it contracts and expands, it gives certain vibration to the nozzle, and because of its expansion the powder comes out of the nozzle, and because of its contraction the powder doesn't come from the nozzle. So this is how, whenever the powder is needed, it can come out and without any carrier gas. So there, the vibration amplitude and vibrational force is given below, and also the mass flow rate of the powder coming out is also given below. So in case of the first arrangement, the mass flow rate is comparatively lesser than the second one. In second one, 10 to 30 mg per second is very much sufficient for a good deposition, which can be achieved from the second diagram. In the third diagram, you dip the nozzle inside a water bath, and do not dip the nozzle at the end. So you make the nozzle tip out of the water bath, and inside the water we are now attaching one sonotrode. And if the sonotrode vibrates, the vibration gets transferred inside the water, and from the water vibration the nozzle vibrates and the powder particles come out of the nozzle end. So obviously here also the nozzle end diameter should not be very high than the powder particles stream diameter. Otherwise the powders will automatically come out, and you don't need any external vibration. You need an external vibration for the powder particle to come out, means your nozzle end diameter is certainly more than the diameter of the highest diameter of the powder, but it's not very much higher that the powder particles will automatically come out. This is one point to be noted from this. Then there is another. So there are powder tubes, and you are attaching the acoustic vibrator sonotrode, in which you are now giving acoustic waves. So basically sound wave, in which the this nozzle will absorb the vibration, and because of the vibration the powder particles will come out of the nozzle. In first case, the water one, the flow rate of the powder is lesser, but in case of the later one, the powder particle mass flow rate is higher. There is another setup. Again, we are using the concept of piezoelectric material. So in this case, now you are using the setup of two piezoelectric material. One is attached at the vertical, one is attached in the horizontal position, and both are basically vibrating the nozzle. And whenever the powder particle needs to be come out, it will vibrate and they will come out from the nozzle. In the third case, it basically looks like the arrangement that I am showing since the first day. From central slot, the laser will come. From the circumferential slot, the powder will come. But the the powder hopper is different, and from the powder hopper, the powder is coming in the nozzle, but the powder is not coming out of the nozzle, or not, the powder is not controlled inside the nozzle using the carrier gas. Now you have attached one piezoelectric material inside the nozzle. And when the piezoelectric material vibrates or contracts and expands, the powder particles come out from the circumferential slots. So these are few arrangement, and from the last case study you can see the mass flow rate is the highest, and this is the most convenient configuration in case of laser powder DD. You will see most of the system with this configuration, whether they are using this non-pneumatic nozzle or pneumatic nozzle, doesn't matter. Even if you are using the carrier gas or you are using the piezoelectric material, this configuration gives us the maximum capture efficiency with the maximum process efficiency. So now, as a summary of the powder delivery system, so the powder injection angle. So these are few parameters basically what which are useful to get a good deposition. In which one is the powder injection angle. Always remember, if you increase the angle, then your divergence angle will be more. If your divergence angle is more, means the powders are getting diverged from the melt pool. We want the powder particles to be converged at the melt pool so that we can get maximum number of particles in the melt pool or under the consolidation of the laser. So that's why injection angle should be low. So here it is written that low injection angle supports longer depth of focus. Basically, this. If this is the depth of focus, and if your injection angle is this, then only this region is depth of focus. So you can see here the depth of focus is more than this one, so this is more beneficial. So that's why the injection angle should be more. It should be less, should be as less as possible. The mass flow rate, obviously, if you are not giving optimal mass flow rate, then the two things can happen. So the first thing is, if your mass flow rate is not more, then because of the carrier gas which is carrying the powder, you will have multiple porosity in your part, and which will make your part weak and full of residual stress and full of probability of getting cracks. And second one is, if you are increasing the mass flow rate, so high mass flow rate is often associated with increased surface roughness, because if you are increasing the mass flow rate more than what is needed, then basically you are providing more powder particles to the melt pool. And in that particular laser power scan speed combination, which is also known as the volumetric energy density, under that fixed volumetric energy density, if you are providing more material, then all the powder particles will not get melted, and those unmelted powders attached in the melt pool again increases the porosity and increases the surface roughness as well. So your powder mass flow rate should not be lesser than optical or increased like more than optimal. So there should be one optimal value of the mass flow rate. Then is particle velocity. So particle velocity means basically at what velocity the carrier gas is carrying the particles. So if your particle velocity is less than your head movement, from the head the laser is coming, then your particles will not reach the melt pool at that laser consolidation, at the time of laser consolidation. So your particle should reach the melt pool. That's why your particle velocity is very important. Then feedstock selection, obviously, if you are going with copper, aluminum, these are highly reflective material. This will not get melted very easily. You have to go for very high power in case of aluminium. I can tell you because I'm working with aluminium in DD. You have to go with very high laser power and a very small or low scan speed. But again, aluminium has a very high tendency to get oxidized. So you cannot even go for lower scan speed. If you decrease your scan speed, you will get fully oxidized track. So you have to be you have to optimize your parameter in such a way that aluminum will get melted, because as aluminum is reflective, it doesn't get melted very easily. In case of copper, copper is more reflective than aluminum. So you have to again provide very high energy density to the melt pool to make the copper melted. Now, as copper is very reflective and you are providing the laser with the copper powder stream, there will be chances of the laser to get reflect back to the lens from which the laser is coming. So now imagine there is this head, and from that head, this is the lens, and from this lens, the laser is getting focused at this position. This position is over the bill plate. This is the bead deposited. So if your powder stream is coming like this, and if the powder stream is now reflecting back the laser, it can directly go and hit the lens from which the laser is coming. And if it is getting reflected back and then hitting the lens, it can damage the lens. And your whole process and the process machinery will be damaged. So this is the problem working with copper. So then if you want the copper to be melted, then you have to increase the energy density. If you are increasing the energy density, okay, just a second. If you are increasing the energy density, means you are increasing the laser power or you are decreasing the scan speed. Now, if you do these things, now these both things have different effect on the melt pool. For example, the laser power increases the instantaneous temperature of the melt pool, and the scan speed increases the depth of the melt pool. Now, if you go for very high laser power and very low scan speed, then you may come to the point of keyhole formation. Now, again, if you are now depositing the material with keyhole mode, if you do not know what is keyhole, I can show you. So basically, when you increase the laser power very high, the laser go inside the material more, and if the laser is going inside the material, it come back from the material with multiple internal reflection inside the material. And then when it is coming back with multiple internal reflection, that internal reflection basically helps in absorbing the laser by the parent material, or in case of copper. So if now you are going for keyhole mode, it's good that you have increased the energy density. Now you can melt the copper, but there is one problem. Keyhole mode makes your processing unstable. And if your processing or melt pool is unstable, means you are indirectly increasing the chances of gas entrapment inside the melt pool, the chances of getting porosity inside the melt pool, and many other problems, defects. Basically, it makes defective melt pool and defective beads over the bill plate. So now that is of no use, right? So that is why you have to optimize the parameter, and that is why working with aluminum and copper is very difficult in case of IR laser. So what is the solution? So one is that you go for keyhole mode of welding, or DED, where you have to again optimize the parameter in such a way that the keyhole depth should not be very high, so that your melt pool should not be very unstable, and you should not make a lot of porosity inside the deposited bead, but you have to somehow make the copper absorb the laser beam. The second way is, I have discussed it again in my last class, that when you lower down the laser wavelength, you basically increase the energy of the laser, because E equal to hc by lambda, and lambda is the wavelength, E is the energy. If you decrease the wavelength, obviously your energy of the laser beam will increase. And if you can somehow increase the laser energy, the photon energy of a particular laser, obviously you will be able to excite the metal atom more. And because of that excitement, the metal will absorb the laser more. So this is why people go for shorter wavelength laser in case of processing aluminum and copper. So shorter wavelength means there are green laser and blue laser, which are extensively used for at least copper deposition, because aluminum doesn't have very high effect of this energy. Aluminum doesn't absorb blue laser also much, but obviously it has 3 times more absorptivity than iron laser. In case of copper has 13 times more absorption in case of blue laser rather than iron laser. So like that you can realize how much effective this shorter wavelength lasers are in case of processing highly reflective metals. So till this point, if you have any doubt, you can ask me. You can write in the comment section. Otherwise, I am moving forward to the next topic. So the last no. So another is the stream characteristics. So every natural process take place with the Gaussian characteristics. Gaussian is the most natural one. So when the powder streams come, that also comes with the Gaussian beam profile, like Gaussian profile. So if you are seeing the laser focus spot as circular, there you are having Gaussian intensity profile. Now if you are looking at the powder stream, which is this, there also you see a Gaussian profile. Means at the powder stream also, because this is the powder stream that we are working with. So at our working zone, this is the cross section of the powder stream. There also at the middle, there will be more number of powder than at the edges. That is what Gaussian beam or Gaussian profile means, because that is the natural phenomena. It will take place. And in case of Gaussian trend, which implies the validity of 1 by e square rule to determine the size of the focus spot. Ideally, the focus size of the powder stream should be smaller than the melt pool dimension to ensure high catchment efficiency. I have already said that. Next is the shielding gas. As I said, in case of aluminium, you can point out it more significantly, that if you are not working with a very high shielding gas flow rate, your each track will get oxidized very easily. So that's why you have to be ensure about the shielding gas, because shielding gas ensures uh, proper, or it helps in maintaining a constant environment at the place of deposition or in the melt pool region. It also helps to maintain the shape of the melt pool, the shape of the melt pool region. So shielding gas is important, which shielding gas you are using, and also the flow rate of the shielding gas is also helpful. Then, to make the deposition process omnidirectional, one thing is you always go for the uh, coaxial arrangement of the laser and powder stream. And if you are not going with the coaxial one, you go for the arrangement or configuration where you will supply the powder streams like this and laser like this, and then in each nozzle or each head of the powder stream you will have multiple nozzle and multiple nozzles with separate control over it, so that if the full head is tilting at a particular angle, like this. For example, in 45-degree, your powder stream should not look like there is some powder in this portion and no powder in this portion. So this is full of powder and this is empty. This should not look like this. So that's why if you are not going for the coaxial arrangement, then you have to have separate control over each powder stream. Then, in case of DED, again, support free printing is a very common one. You can have more degrees of freedom than the normal XYZ. You can rotate the build plate and tilt the nozzle head. And the last one, and the newest one, is the gas free powder delivery. You go for the non-pneumatic head or non-pneumatic powder stream, where you can use the effect of piezoelectric material, or you can use the sonotrode for giving a proper vibration to the nozzle end, so that the powder can come out of the nozzle because of the vibration. It will come out and join the melt pool directly because of the gravitational force. So this is up to this point, this is all about the powder delivery system. Now, uh, the most famous one, most famous machine in DD is from the Optomec. So there is some video in the lecture, so you can go and watch how this cladding process goes on. And in case of cladding, as I said, top hat beam profile is the most beneficial one than Gaussian. In case of any other laser based additive manufacturing, we always go for the Gaussian beam profile because that gives us the highest efficiency, because there we go for the laser focus spot diameter. We work at the focus spot. So in case of focus, the spot diameter is very less. In that, if you are going with Gaussian beam, it's well and good. And but if you are working with a defocused spot diameter, which is like this, if this is 100 nanometer and this is 100 micrometer, there is 10 to the power 3 order difference. And if your if your defocus spot diameter is now 100 micrometer, and here you are using Gaussian, then it will somewhat look like this. At some of the region in the middle, you will have the maximum energy, and other than that, you will have very less energy density. That can result in very less capture efficiency in case of powder DD, and not will not result in desert, melt pool, or bead profile, and be mechanical and metallurgical property of the deposited bead. So that's why people go for top head profile like this, where even if you're going with smaller diameter or larger diameter or very large diameter, like very much defocus, you will have a constant and uniform laser energy density throughout the spot. So that's why, as DD was useful for cladding first, and now DD is useful, is used for component development everywhere. Because of that concept of powder stream coming, people go for top head profile rather than Gaussian. So here you can see some of the uh, deposition parameter. So last class we have already talked about the process parameter of powder laser DD. Again, laser power, can speed. Then the another important parameter is the powder feed rate, layer thickness, hat spacing, the head movement like the travel speed, the gas flow rate, everything, and bead overlap ratio. Everything has a very significant role in the in good deposition. So after that, you can go through this different companies and their different nozzle arrangement and their different machineries. having different process parameter range. So this Optomax system can go from 330 watt power to 780 watt power, but this DMG Mori can go with different set of process parameter, like their power is very high, but they are using fiber laser and diode laser both, so they can have Gaussian beam profile and top hat beam profile both, and they're working with very high energy, like 2500 to 3000 watt power. Then there is Beam from France. They have their higher laser power setup than the rest of two, but everywhere you will see this configuration, this coaxial configuration, where from central slot the laser comes and from circumferential slots the powder comes. This is also the coaxial and this is also the coaxial one. The same configuration, that is the configuration which can result in the highest capture efficiency. Again, as I said, if you are using the DED head with a moving robotic arm, then you can have more degrees of freedom in rotation and tilt, and you can print part, some overhang part without any support. This is very important. Like as a general knowledge, you can go through this table of which system can result in which type of accuracy, because if they are having more number of degrees of freedom means they can result in better complex geometry. So there is another very interesting part. So uh, overhang, now in case of DD, if you are now printing one part with overhang free feature, and now you don't have the flexibility of tilting the head or rotating the build plate, then you have to print the part with support structure. But removal of support structure and building the support structure in case of powder DD is very different. It's very different from LPBF and it's very difficult as well. So instead of that, if you still want to print something which has to use support structure but you don't want to use support structure, then this is the process. There, what people did is build this structure. This is just a cube. Fill the powder inside it. Now center the powder. Centering means this time you are giving lesser energy density. Your laser power is more, but your energy density is very less. So your scan speed is very high. So in case of that, sintering means the powder particles will not get melted, but they will just get fused with each other. So they are loosely packed basically. In case of powder uh, layer, if you are spreading one layer over the build plate, your powders are loosely packed with each other. There are voids inside the powder. So if you want to consolidate the laser over it, they cannot act as a support structure. But if you center the powder layer, if you can center the whole powder cube of powder, then here you can use this now as a support structure, because these are centered. So these can be used as a base to the next overhang portion, and by which over this now you can build a part like this, and we can get this type of part which people printed using DED but without any support. Now sintered powder you can easily eliminate afterward by just giving them ultrasonic vibration. If you are going for ultrasonic vibration of the part, the sintered powder are very much loosely bonded, so that they will get broken. So this is how you can easily print some complex, not very complex structure, but some structure which is having some little bit of overhang portion, and without support and without having any rotation in the build plate and tilting in the head, you can print this. So this is up to which lecture 1 covered. If you have any doubt, you can ask me, like you can drop it in the comment section. If you're not, then I'll move on to the next lecture. From lecture 2 onwards, there is mostly the calculations by which how can you get the focus spot diameter of the powder stream, and at what position what should be the SOD, stand up distance, at which you should carry out your deposition process so that you can have highest capture efficiency. This type of calculations have been done. So those are simple calculations. Even if I do not discuss about it, you will get it. So that's why I'm repetitively asking you that if you have any doubt, you can ask right now. Okay. Okay. No. Uh, so one thing I wanted to add in from the last lecture is that, just a second. So this is the laser, and this is the powder stream. Okay. So in the powder stream, the powder particles are coming with the help of carrier gas. We are talking about the pneumatic one, okay? Because non-pneumatic one is the new one, and generally you will find the pneumatic one only. So here the powder particles are coming with the help of carrier gas. So there is one concept of extreme high speed cladding, which is relatively a new topic, extreme high speed cladding. So uh, right now we haven't started with LPVF, but when you'll get to know what is LPVF, you'll think like why people go for DD, because in LPVF the printing speed is relatively very high, and the quality is again very accurate, very smooth. So you can have very less dimensional feature size, like you can result in better accuracy and print very complex structure. For example, lattice structure. So if you see any lattice structure, they have very complicated shape inside them, which are mostly overhang structure. But LPBF doesn't need that much support structure in printing those overhanging portion because of its high speed and high energy density and very focused laser spot diameter and lesser powder particle size distribution and other features. So people can easily print those lattice structure in case of LPBF. But in case of DED, it's quite difficult to print those lattice structures, basically very complicated shape and geometry without any support structure. Because if you are making some internal features and internal complicated structure inside a part with a support, you cannot remove the support after the printing, because that is the complete internal part. You cannot remove it. But then also people are going for DD. Why? Because DD has the advantage of using as an open system. So you will find DD as an open system. DD doesn't work with a closed chamber. You can find closed chamber DD with very renowned companies like Optomec has their own closed chamber. This DMG Mori has their own closed chamber. But DD can be worked with open environment. You have to have just the proper flow rate of the shielding gas. The shielding gas is there near the melt pool region. It's not present in the whole chamber, but when LPBF, when you use LPBF, you have to go for closed chamber with a constant environment inside the chamber, which restricts the dimension of the part. So basically, LPBF is a costly machine, costlier than DD, and it needs a complete sealed chamber with very much highly um, filled with argon gas or nitrogen gas, depending upon which material you are using. And DD doesn't need that, so you can print large part using DD. And this is the biggest advantage of using DD. And if you want to go for cladding, again, LPBF can work or can be used as for in case of cladding, but it's not very easy. In case of DD, it's very easy to go for cladding, to go for repairing any worn out parts. So that's why people go for DD rather than LPBF. But again, DD is not very high speed process. It's a very slow process. If you see the scan speed, in case of LPBF, the scan speed is somewhat 1000 millimeter per second. In case of DD, the scan speed is 1000 millimeter per per minute. So now it's 60 times lesser. So that's why DD is a slow process. But there is another concept of high speed cladding or extreme high speed cladding. So what basically happens is, first of all, you're going with a top hat profile. So throughout the laser beam, you are having uniform heat density profile, heat distribution. Second point is you are working at the defocus region. So your focus spot is basically larger, your spot diameter is larger than the focus spot diameter of the laser. The third point is when you increase the SOD in such a way that in case of normal DD, when the powder particles come at the melt pool, then only they get melted and deposited over the melt pool. So basically, first they come over the melt pool and then they get melted. But in case of extreme high speed cladding, they get heated up itself when they cross this boundary. This is the laser here. And when this much powder is crossing this boundary, they are getting heated up. So 50% melting is already done. And when they are finally reaching the melt pool, which is this portion, they are 100% melted. So you don't have to wait there for the powder particles to absorb the laser and get melted. The the time they are reaching the melt pool, they are fully melted. So you don't have to wait so that this laser beam or the head can move forward to melt. So go in the another point, which is this is point 1, this is point 2. It can now come to the point 2 and the powder particles are already melted. So by this way, you can move the laser head very fast and you can get the high speed in your cladding process. So basically what we are doing is we are 50% melting or heating up the powder particles on their way to come and join the melt pool. In case of normal cladding, the powders first come, join the melt pool, and then they get melted. So first deposition and then melting. But in case of extreme high speed cladding, in the way of their coming, they are getting heated up, and then when they are finally reaching the melt pool, they are fully melted. So that's why as you are heating up the powders, they take lesser time to get melted and deposited over the melt pool. So that's why in case of extreme high speed or in case of cladding, this is how you can increase the speed, and now you name the cladding process as extreme high speed cladding. They have their own set of process parameter than normal cladding. So obviously the laser power used in case of extreme high speed cladding is relatively higher. The SOD is relatively higher. The scattering speed is very, very high. and also the powder flow rate or the carrier gas flow rate is different. The powder velocity is higher, and also the shielding gas flow rate is also different than normal cladding process. So this is the difference of normal cladding with the extreme high speed cladding. This was something different from the normal one. Next topic. So now, as I said, first is the capture efficiency or catchment efficiency. So it's basically the ratio of the mass of the clad layer by the mass of powder ejected from the nozzle. Basically, it is the ratio between the number of powder particles actually got melted and deposited versus the powder particles which you sent from the powder hopper to the melt pool. So there will be some loss, as I said. Some powder particles will bounce back from the melt pool, some powder particles will just flow away with the carrier gas or the shielding gas. Some particles will remain unmelted because of their time of reaching at the melt pool. And this is how you lose most of the powder particles and result in very less catchment efficiency. Now, depending upon the SOD, depending upon the region where we are walking, the region of the powder stream where you are walking, you will have different catchment efficiency. So obviously, because of which we go for defocus region of the laser and focus region of the powder stream. Again and again, I'm repeating this point because you have to remember this point always if you're working with DD. Now, this is the diagram. So in this region, if you are working with this region, you will see the powder stream look like a donut shape, and the laser is coming with this. So the laser is no way interacting with the powder, okay? But if you are working at this position, then you'll see the powder particles and then the laser powder. So you can utilize the maximum number of powder particles which are coming from the nozzle. So this is the Gaussian distribution of the powder, and by taking one strip, you can integrate and get this is the diagram. You can integrate and get how many powder particles are coming in one way in one go, and then you can determine at what position you have to do the deposition and what position you'll get the highest capture efficiency. So till this point, this is very important parameter. This is very important equation you should always remember. This is the bead overlap ratio. Okay, so basically one bead width is W and the overlap ratio or the overlap is P. So P is 2 by 3 of W. This is what you get generally. And then if you are doing the welding, we need the dilution to be very high. But in case of DD, we don't want dilution to be very high. Otherwise, with each layer deposition, you will remelt 2 3 previously deposited layer, and you will basically damage the metallurgical property of each layer. So that's why we don't go for very high dilution. We need a little bit dilution which is needed to fuse two consecutive or two adjacent layers. And this is up to which was covered in week 10 videos. Functionally graded materials I have already discussed. So functionally graded, the deposition of functionally graded material is way too easier in case of DD than LPBF. And one thing you remember, that is, as I said, the effect of laser power and the effect of scan speed is different. When you increase the volumetric energy density or line energy density, which is P by VD, D is the spot diode, V is the scan speed, P is the laser power. This is the line energy density. If you increase the line energy density, means you are providing higher energy to the powder. So your melting will be better. If you are providing lesser energy density, your melting can be uh, insufficient. But again, as the effect of power and focus spot diameter and scan speed is different, so actually by maintaining the optimal VD, you can still get different metallurgical property in different layer by just changing the laser power and scan speed. So functionally graded material can be two types. One is when you change the powder distribution itself, how I said, so I have shown it in the last PDF, that from layer in the layer one you are there are four hoppers, so you are taking 50% from five from hopper one, 10% from two, 10% from three, and 30% from four. So this consists in layer one. In layer two, you are just changing the percentage of the powder coming from four hoppers, and in four hoppers you have kept four different materials, so by that you can make some functionally graded material. But you can also make functionally graded material by single material and single hopper, by just changing this line energy density, maintaining the line energy density constant, but again changing the laser power and scan speed. Functionally graded means you will have different microstructure in different region that you can do by changing the power and scan speed. So there are two ways of making functionally graded material, and two ways can be possible in DED. Easier to do in DED than LPBF. So yeah, the same picture of FGM. So this is the Inconel 65 clad layer over the chromium molybdenum steel. So this is the turbine, damaged turbine blade, and during service, so which can be recovered by DED very easily. You have to just scan the part, make a CAD for make a CAD model, identify the region where the damage have been taken place, and now you repair that part in CAD model, import the STL file in your DED, and define the region where the material need to get deposited, and then you go for the cladding and your part is repaired. So thus DED can be very much useful in case of cladding or repairing the worn out part, basically repairing this type of shaft or turbine blade. So this is up to which is covered in this week. So if you have any doubt, you can put it in the comment section. I can also add more points in DD respect to the LPBF process, but I will only add it when you will get to know about LPBF as well. Otherwise, if I tell you now, you will not understand that much because LPBF has not been introduced till. So I will add more points about DD, or in terms of LPBF, the difference between LPBF and DD. Why, as I said, the scan speed in case of DD is higher than LPBF. The layer thickness is also higher in case of DD than LPBF. So that also has a definite reason. There is a reason behind this higher layer thickness in case of DD than LPBF. Those we will discuss later. Right now, if you don't have any doubt, then I'll go for the previous year questions. Discard. Okay, let's start. I think my PPT is visible, right? My PPT is visible, right? Yes, okay. So first question is, in a powder feed based EM process of an off axis nozzle, off axis means it's not coaxial. So the laser is coming from the head, but the powder is delivered from a side nozzle. Is used to feed material into the molten pool. If the material is changed from A to B and the same setup is used with the same process parameter, the melting point of the material A and B is same, but the thermal conductivity of the material is 2 times higher than the thermal conductivity of A. Find out the ratio of the catchment efficiency for both the material. So catchment efficiency has the term of thermal conductivity, and it's inversely proportional with the square of it. So basically eta A is eta B equal to K is the thermal conductivity of B by A and square. So it's 4. So the answer is 4. In a powder feed based AM process of off axis nozzle, again side feeding mechanism is used to feed material into the molten pool. If the powder of the laser is increased by twice, then catchment efficiency. Again, laser power is inversely, like catchment efficiency is inversely proportional to directly proportional to laser power and with a square term of it. So eta is proportional to p square. So if it's increased twice, then 4. Then in a powder feed based AM process, off axis nozzle is used to feed material into molten pool. If the diameter of the nozzle injection of the powder is 10 millimeter, D is 10, injection angle is 30, then find out the projected area of the powder on the horizontal plane. So it's easy. It's just cos theta. So which will come around 91. You can put the value and calculate. The a coaxial powder delivery nozzle follows a Gaussian distribution. So it's a simple formula you have to remember. A coaxial powder delivery nozzle follows a Gaussian distribution of the powder particles in 2D. Find out the particle number concentration at point X, Y in the cross section of the stream. Assume N0 is the peak number particle number concentration as the stream center, and R is the boundary radius at which the particle density is 1 by E square of the maximum. This is the simple equation of Gaussian profile. You'll find the same equation in case of laser as well. You have to remember it. Then a powder feed based AM process uses coaxial powder delivery. If the radius RZ of the powder stream at the surface of the substrate is 3 millimeter and the diameter of the molten pool of the surface at the substrate is 6 millimeter, then find out the primary efficiency of the process. Primary efficiency eta P is, we have the formula, so you have to again just remember the formula. There is no other way. So the answer is will come out as this. So this, okay, 0.87. A powder feed. I'm just writing down the formula so that you can just solve it by your own. A powder feed based AM process uses a coaxial powder delivery system. Coaxial means the laser is coming from the central slot and the powder stream is coming from the circumferential slot. If the shape of the cross section of the deposited BD is parabolic in with 2 millimeter width and 3 millimeter height, then find out the cross section area of the deposited head. It's 4. What is the most significant use of a long powder delivery nozzle in powder feed based AM? Better accessibility. So obviously, if you are printing something with complex shape and geometry like a lattice structure, then your long head will be easily accessible to go inside a unit cell and print the lattice inside, or can go inside a internal hole and print something there. Again, FDM stands for, we all know, functionally graded material. Grit stiffen structure provide high strength to weight ratio. So grit stiffen means this denotes a kind of lattice structure. So basically the advantage of using lattice is high strength to weight. Lattice structure basically decreases the density of the part because instead of uh, instead of depositing or feeling a cube with 100% density, you are not feeling the cube with 100% material, but you are feeling the cube with a particular lattice structure. So as you are decreasing the density of the part, you will decrease the weight of the part. But by using lattices, you can increase the load bearing capacity. So basically you increase the strength to weight ratio. Then which of the following is not an application of powder feed based EM process? Everything, like part restoration is the another term of laser cladding. Laser cladding is also used to put a thin or thick coating over a particular part, so that, for example, on the shaft you are putting some material which will not get rusted easily. So if you are having one iron shaft and you are putting stainless steel or inconel layer over it, so you can make the part to sustain more lifetime, like life of the work. And surface alloying is another one that I have discussed already. So if you are putting another thin or thick layer of material over a particular part, you can increase its working life. In continuous coax, so the answer is none of these. In continuous coaxial nozzle of the powder is delivered to the molten pool is dash, whereas the discrete coaxial nozzle uses dash with appropriate inclination to delivery powder. So in continuous coaxial nozzle, the powder is delivered to the melt pool in annular flow pattern, whereas discrete coaxial nozzle uses distinct powder stream with appropriate inclination to the delivery powder. So basically, this is discrete one and this is coaxial one, where at this moment, at this stage, you will have this annular shape and from center the laser will come. Then for a discrete coaxial nozzle, if an increase in powder injection angle leads to decrease the standoff distance. So decrease coaxial nozzle है तो in an increase in powder injection angle obviously will decrease the standoff distance, because if you are increasing the injection, so this is what basically you are doing. These are the powder stream. From the central slot, the laser is coming. And as you have increased the injection angle, your powder stream will be uh, diverged very easily, and your divergent angle will be very high. So you will have a very low range of powder where your capture efficiency can be highest. So you have to basically decrease your standoff distance to get good capture efficiency. Next question is for discrete, again coaxial nozzle. The diameter of the powder stream's local point should be larger than the focus point of the to ensure omnidirectionality. Select the correct statement. So the correct one is a nozzle coaxial nozzle leads to high substrate dilution at the center as compared to the edges if you are using Gaussian distribution, and obviously in case of coaxial powder stream. Coaxial nozzles can be used for cladding of rotary components only. That is wrong. Coaxial nozzles can be used for part fabrication but not for laser cladding. That is wrong. Coaxial nozzles do not maintain concentricity with the fusion, again wrong. Select the incorrect statement. So, acoustic vibration can be used for powder delivery. It is correct. Then, carrier gases impart high velocity to the powder particles. This is wrong. Carrier gases just are used to carry the powder in that flow pipe, because powders cannot come along. They have to have an external source of energy with them. Ultrasonic vibration can be used for powder delivery. Yes, in case of non-pneumatic one. Water bath. Yes, with sonotrode. Select the correct sequence to manufacture a rectangular duct using a laser-based powder. Okay, so first build the bottom and vertical walls. Switch off the laser. Fill the duct with loose powder. Center, then switch off the powder also and switch on the laser beam, then center it, and lastly switch on the powder and the laser both for the overhanging wall, because of which you have now centered the powder layer. The powder particles concentration at the focal point in a coaxial nozzle. The laser beam at the center follows Gaussian trend. Select the incorrect statement made in the context of continuous coaxial nozzle in powder feed based additive. Okay, a high inclination angle renders the nozzle non omnidirectional. No, it is correct. Then high inclination angle increases the non uniformity of particle distribution at the focal point. The high inclination angle, yes, increases not okay. At high inclination, the drag velocity of individual powder stream can be appropriately adjusted to restore omnidirectionality. This is wrong. And then, yeah, that is also correct. Okay. Which of the following is not limitation of the pneumatic feedstock powder handling system? Unable to fabricate function. No, it is not. It doesn't it doesn't have any effect on the powder hopper, like whether it can deliver two powder, three powder or not. It only has the effect that it will not use the carrier gas, so it result in better accuracy from the point of view of porosity, and better density you can achieve. So otherwise you can do anything and everything what you can use with the pneumatic one. Which of the following expression correctly describe the global energy density during deposition? So it's the line energy density, basically. Laser power by spot diameter into laser scan speed. This is all from my side. So if you want to discard, add some other point, if you want me to discuss anything else, you can ask me. If you have any doubt, you can ask me from previous week's lecture or previous assignment. Otherwise, we are done. Yes or no? No. Thank you. Okay. Thank you for attending. Let's meet in the next session. Till then, bye bye. Good night.